They could extend survival time to an average of 8 hours. The longest recorded survival, 17 hours and 43 minutes. He documents this with almost proud precision. But here's the detail that should haunt you. Schulthus describes anatomical observations that could only have been made during active torture. He notes the angle at which the wedge separates the pelvic floor muscles. He describes the sequential failure of tissue layers as weight increases. He sketches the position of internal organs being displaced. This wasn't post-mortem examination. He was watching women die and taking notes like he was studying plant specimens. The German medical board revoked his license in 1691, not for attending executions, but for publishing details that revealed church methods. 23 other physicians were named in subsequent investigations. Only one was prosecuted. But in 1689, something unprecedented happened. An executioner, a man who had personally operated the Spanish donkey for 18 years, broke his oath of silence. He walked into a monastery, demanded sanctuary, and handed the abbot a diary containing 847 entries. Each entry detailed an execution, the victim's name, the survival time, and the church officials who attended. But that's not why this diary changed history. It changed history because of what else the executioner recorded. Something so shocking that when the diary was published, it triggered riots across Bavaria and forced the Pope himself to intervene. Don't click away now, because what I'm about to reveal will make you question every institution of power that's ever existed. I know this is getting dark, but if you're still watching, you clearly understand that history's brutal truths matter, because what comes next exposes the ultimate corruption. The executioner's name was Hans Schmidt. For 18 years, he'd operated the Spanish donkey in Bamberg. He personally executed 312 women. And in 1689, at age 56, he walked away from a lucrative career to expose a secret that the church had protected for over a century. His diary, now preserved in Munich's Bavarian State Library, contains entries like this. June 17, 1683, victim Elsa Hoffman, age 44. Crime, witchcraft. Survival time 5 hours, 22 minutes. Weight added 35 pounds. Church officials present. Bishop Ferner Canon. Fled. Canon knew Deca wager placed 50 guilders. Winner Canon fled. Closest. Estimate 5 hours, 30 minutes. Read that again. Wager placed. Church officials were betting on how long women would survive. They turned executions into gambling entertainment. They place bets before the torture began, estimating survival times, and the winner would collect the pot. Schmidt's diary documents 183 separate instances of betting between 1671 and 1688. The total amount wagered over 12,000 guilders, equivalent to roughly 23 million today. But here's what makes this absolutely unforgivable. Schmidt's diary reveals that church officials would sometimes request adjustments during executions to influence their bets. If a bishop had waged the victim would survive 7 hours, but she was failing at 6 hours, they'd order weight removed to prolong survival. If someone bet on a shorter time, they'd add weight to accelerate death. They were manipulating torture to win gambling debts. When Schmidt's diary was published in 1690, riots erupted across Bavaria. Churches were vandalized. 3 bishops fled to France. The Holy Roman Emperor demanded an investigation. In 1692, Pope Innocent Zir issued a paper bull officially banning the Spanish donkey, not because of the torture itself, but because the gambling scandal was destroying the church's credibility across Europe. But here's the truth that historians bury. The ban wasn't enforced. Local jurisdictions continued using the device in secret for another 182 years. The last officially documented Spanish donkey execution occurred in 1874 in a rural Spanish village. By then it had been illegal for 182 years, but it was still happening. Schmidt's diary documents exactly 847 Spanish donkey Deaths in Bamberg alone between 1671 and 1689. Historians estimate that across Europe between 1490 and 1874, the total death toll was somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 women. But we'll never know the real number because after the 1692 ban, churches systematically destroyed execution records. The documents that survived only exist because people like Kathina Henot and Hans Schmidt risked everything to preserve them. Today, the few remaining Spanish donkey devices are locked in museum storage, not on public display. The official reason too disturbing for general audiences. The real reason, their physical evidence of systematic femicide disguised as justice, and that truth is still too uncomfortable for institutions to acknowledge. But the legacy of the Spanish donkey didn't die in 1874. In 1948, when the United Nations drafted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 5 states, "No one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment." That single sentence exists because of devices like the Spanish donkey. The American Constitution's 8th Amendment, cruel and unusual punishment, was written by men who had studied Inquisition, torture methods, and vowed never to allow them in the New World. Modern international law, the Geneva Conventions, the entire framework of human rights that we take for granted today, all of it was built on the grave of women like Anna Schwartz, Margarita Herber, and the 847 documented victims. In Hans Schmidt's diary, their suffering wasn't meaningless. It exposed the horrifying truth about what happens when institutions weaponize pain for profit and power. So here's my question for you, and I want you to really think about this before you answer in the comments. If you had lived in 1680s Bavaria and you knew what was happening, would you have spoken out, knowing that speaking out might put you on the Spanish donkey next? Because that's the question every generation faces in different forms. When do you risk everything to expose institutional evil? Think about it and let me know in the comments. If this video disturbed you as much as it disturbed me to research, you need to watch my next video about the Judas Cradle, another device that historians tried to erase from history. Click the link in the description. Hit subscribe if you want more uncomfortable historical truths because I'm not done exposing the dark side of history that textbooks refuse to teach. I'll see you in the next one.